More than
Praise
enough
you
time.
Praise you for coming.
All right. Okay, ready to roll? Eliyahu was ma'ir to me this morning, some sucking for Ramesha that a lot of us go with, and a lot of the ones that we don't go with. So he discussed using Shabbos clocks, right? But on Shabbos. But one thing that I used to say to people is that if you go with, again, this has to do with yesterday's daf, that you don't necessarily have to paskin like one person always, right? So if you hold Ramesha's heter of Chalav Stam, right? So you can eat Chalav Stam, but Ramesha, at least the way the Chuvas, it says in the Chuvas, is that you cannot eat potato chips unless it's Bishul Yisrael, which means that you cannot have wise potato chips, Utz potato chips, anything like that. So the interesting thing is, if you go to like you're traveling, right?
Ever or on Shabbos?
No, ever. Basically, so if you go to I think it'll be all right. If you go to the gas station and you pick yourself up a Haagen-Dazs ice cream and a wise potato chips, one of them has to go. If you're going to go with that, you have to hold a Ramosha through and through. You cannot have wise potato chips and a Haagen-Dazs.
Yeah, but people pick and choose on all Ramosha's shoes.
I know that's what that's exactly what I'm saying. Well, but that is correct. You don't have to necessarily paskin like the same rug.
Well, now that you've caused Simon to go off the derech, we just.
But I can have Mahadran ice cream and wise chips.
Yeah, because I know I love dafka, but it depends. Whatever it is, it's. Ramosha writes in the Chuvas, potato chips is bishalakum, right? The OU does not have a yid turning on the flames to cook potato chips, right? Because they say that potato chips will not go on a king's table.
What about pretzels?
Right? Pretzels is a pas issue. Pretzels is more makel because it's a bread, right? But yeah. Anyways, okay. So that's but the bottom line is from yesterday's Gemara.
So I'm saying, so if I have Mahadran ice cream, then I can have wise chips.
I didn't say one has to do with the other. I'm just saying that if you're eating both at the same time, one of them Ramosha agrees to, and one of them Ramosha does not agree to, and that does not mean you're doing anything wrong. That's what I'm saying. Doesn't mean you're doing anything wrong. Right? Okay. So what do we start with? Okay. So we've been discussing. I'm going to switch places. We've been discussing. No, my brother asked me to do it on this porch, and then he doesn't even show up. Yeah, hello. Sorry, it's just too loud out there. Gotta find quiet spots. Anyway, so yesterday, Maish, I'm moving to this porch. Yesterday we were discussing if you have a Mavui, right? And the Mavui opens up into a yard, right? So if a Mavui that opens up into a yard, so he said the people from the Mavui. You see many people around there? I don't understand you.
The last 2 nights there was somebody there.
Yeah. Anyway, so we said if you have a Mavui that opens up, it's a T. Sorry, we gotta get it together. Okay. I'm sorry. Okay, if you have a Mavui, right, it sort of creates a T. Yep, right? And it's a Mavui that opens up into a backyard, as they call it. What do our school call it? Or a chatzer. Or a chatzer, right? So we said that you'd be allowed to carry the Mavui, even though it totally opens up the Rishus Haram. Do we need to go through the Olam has it on the mat? Well, not the mat. What do you call it? The chart on the art scroll. Okay, but anyway, so yeah, basically it's this. This would be the Mavui. This is the yard right here on top, and this is the Rishus Harabim, right? And this is the Rishus Harabim. So we said that even though it's totally open, so you're still allowed to carry in this Mavui, even though it's open over here, and you don't need anything there. So we're gonna qualify this with a few different things. So Amar Rabba, it's 7 lines down from the top on Daf Ches Amud Aleph. So Amar Rabba, and this that we said that if it goes into the middle of the rechava, up to the yard, it's mutter. Yeah, lo yamaron elazeh shaloi keneged zeh. That's only if one. Somebody saying something? Yeah, it's
Where
only
are you holding?
Where we up? Chesam and Aleph. 7 lines down from the bottom.
Okay, you got it?
Yeah, right. That's where we left off. Correct.
7 lines from the top.
Yeah, 7 on top. Yeah, Amarabba.
From the top. What did I say? From the bottom, from the top. From the top. Right. Yeah. Yeah. So again, Rabbah says how to amrit the emtzer rechava mutter, that if it opens up to the middle of a rechava, it's mutter. Lo yamar elazeh shaloi keneged zeh. That's only if one is not opposite the other. Aval zeh keneged zeh. But if one is opposite the other, then it's going to be usher. Right? You see, the art schools have a chart. Yeah, the Olam sees that chart. Right? It only works if it's not directly out. But if it's going to be directly out, then it's a problem. Yes? Meaning, taking this T, for those that don't have the art school chart, but taking this T, right? So where's the break in the fence? This is the Mavui right here. This is the yard, right? Somebody else's yard, let's say. And then there's a break. There's a break. Give me the one yellow. One, just, right. So then this is the break, less than 10. That's here, right? Yeah, so now it depends. If this break is directly aligned with the Mavui, then Rabbah is saying you can't carry there, because then there's a direct line out to Rosh Hashanah. You need to put a lechi there. If the break, which is the yellow, is off to the side, then you'd be allowed to, because the only way to get out from the Mavui here to the Rosh Hashanah you'd have to make a right turn and then a left turn, and it's not direct, and therefore you can carry. Yeah, that's relatively simple. And then Rav Shashi says another one. Amar Rav Shashi, right? It's only if it's somebody. No, I did skip. Oh no. Right, no, I didn't skip. Okay, so it's only talking about where the rechava, which is this part, the top of the T, that part belongs to a public. A rechava, the yachid, but if it belongs to a private person, sometimes he will change his mind. Mimlach means he'll change his mind. He'll decide to build houses there. And it's going to be like a mavui that ends to the side of the street, and it's also. So basically what he's saying here, because yesterday we had said that also that if the mavui goes like this, right, meaning the edge of it goes straight out, then that also doesn't work, right? Meaning it's a L instead of a T, right? So what we're afraid is that even if this is a T, if this is owned by a private person, right, he may decide to build houses right here, and then what's going to happen is the Mavui is going to go straight out. He's going to build houses up until this point, and then the Mavui is going to go straight out into the Rosh Hashanah, in which case it's no good, right? Yeah. So then the Gemara says, "And we not
in the future they can't possibly put up a lechi and a koyra.
They may.
So therefore we have to answer it.
You mean meanwhile? No. Meanwhile,
it's something that may happen where you can make it.
Oh, yeah. Okay. I guess. No, I hear that. Right, but okay, but meaning Yisrael saying that you could fix it by putting up a lechi, but right now I think that's what pshat is. And right now it's not. Right now it's also, right, because it's going to be going straight out. Okay, then so we not tamer the shani lambein rechava drama.
Wait, would put lechi over there? Fix it now.
A lechi would work now. Yeah, sure it would work. A lechi and Carter would work there. We're trying to be matra without putting a lechi.
If I put it on the other side of the rechava, this gzera wouldn't happen.
Correct. Yeah, 100%. Yeah. So now, before we go weiter, so what's the pshat? Why should it make a difference what happens if the Robin gets together? So again, we're only saying this when a private guy owns that yard, right? The top of the T, when the guy owns this part, he's a private guy. But if it's a public, if it's owned by a few people, let's say it's a co-op, we're not concerned they're going to build houses. So what's the pshat? The pshat is because to get a bunch of people to agree to do something is very difficult, and you're never going to get them to agree. That's what the Gemara's assumption is, right? Does that sound familiar? Right? Yes, like my brother said, in this bungalow colony, we're not saying any Lashon Hara, but Baruch Hashem, we got a bunch of people to agree to come onto the Zoom to learn the Daf together at night. So that's already, maybe that disproves this Gemara. But the point is, the Gemara is saying that when you have a bunch of people that own property, to get them to get onto the same page is very difficult. So we're not choshev for it. But if it's a private guy, then we are choshev that he's going to get it together to build houses.
I thought Eruvin anyway started where people were sharing food or whatever it is. Isn't that the whole thing? So it's not more like,
yes.
It's not really property things. It's just sharing food. And that's more likely to happen, no?
No, that's true. But just to share food is not such a big deal, right?
Right. That's what I'm trying to say. So it's more likely than real Eruvin like that we're learning now. No?
Okay, no, I hear what you're saying. Yeah. Anyways, okay, so we not tamer the shani lambein rechaved ram rechaved. How do you know that we differentiate between a yard that belongs to the public and a yard that belongs to private? Amar Rabin, Bar Ravad, Amar of Yitzchak, Ma'aseh b'Mavui echad shetzidi echad kalali yam. One end of the Mavui ended up in the water, not in the water, but it was enclosed by water. V'tzidi echad kalala ashba, and one side. I'm saying, I said end. It's a side, right? ArtScroll has a chart of this too. It's very helpful. One side is the water, one side is a garbage dump. And then at either end, it had lechis, or whatever you needed, lechi or kairos. That part the Gemara leaves out, but that's pasha, that's what it has to be, right? So again, the side, normally on our regular classic case that we've been learning, a mavui has walls all around it. Here, there's no walls. One side is the sea, the other side is a garbage dump. Anybody here ever drive the Pacific Coast Highway? Right? I don't know if anybody was ever zeicher to do that.
Yeah, yes.
Okay. Yeah. Either that or if anybody's been zeicher to watch a car commercial, because they usually use that, right? One side is the ocean and the other side is a big hill. So here, instead of it being a hill, it's a garbage dump. But whatever it is, and then the end of it, right? So that's a street. That would be a mavui, and then they put a lechi on either end. So the question is that garbage dump and the water, is that good enough? Is that good enough to make mechitzas, right? So again, one side was the water, but one side was color means it ended in a ashpa and a dump of and they came in front of Rebbe. He didn't say heter, he didn't say isser. Sort of like what some people are saying about the restaurants. We haven't mentioned that in a few days, right? About the hashkachas, right? No heter, no isser. Yeah? So, loy amar ba, isser loy amar ba, he didn't say it's asser, the kind of mechitzas. The ma'aser is mechitzas, on either side is mechitzas. One is water, one is a dump, but it is a mechitza. Heter loy amar ba. But he didn't say heter, chashin Hashem etinatal ashber v'yala yam sirtan. Perhaps he were afraid that the dump is going to get moved, right? So let's say it's a pile of garbage that's 10 tefachim high, right? But somebody may decide to move it. V'yala hayam sirtan. Or what's going to happen is that the water is going to have a lot of junk and it's going to eliminate the wall. Parrots, you have those pictures I sent you today? Parrots? Is he there?
Yeah, I'm doing it. Hold on.
Just do the first one of just the wall, please. Then we'll do the other one. Oh, yeah, I guess do both. Should have warned you before to do it. Sorry.
See, when the Gemara says there's a wall, that's a wall besides for the sea itself, because the sea itself would be a caramelist, correct?
Correct. Now, here, look at this picture. You have the other picture, Parrots? I guess this one's good enough. Yeah, can everybody see this picture? This is a picture behind the sand castle that Naftali Line was very kind of today to go take a picture of. This is behind the sand castle at the end of Beach 9th Street, Beach 6th Street in Faragua. This used to be our Eruv. This wood, what do we call it? Bulkhead? Seawall? Whatever you want to call it. This used to be the Eruv. Okay? That's exactly what the Gemara is talking about. Where the Mavui would be on the other side of those metal, right? So one side is the seawall, and the other side would be a garbage dump, right? Now the chashash is that you see to the right the dirt piled up. Now that is going to eliminate the wall, because now that's called sirtan. That's the junk from the sea. When it's a high tide, the water washes up to those walls, to that wall, and then it dumps all the dirt, and then memela you lose your mechitza. So that was Rebbe's chashash that would happen. Now because of this, sometimes we had to have workers go out there and dig out all that pile of dirt. Now we already bypassed it, so we no longer use at least that area. We use the bulkheads other places. In Harborview we use it, but that's yeah. What is that one, Paris? Yeah, that's a view from a little further out, right? So you can see to the right how if that would be the Eruv, that would still be the Eruv where Peretz has the thing. If that would be still be it, that would passel up the Eruv right there, right? That's why we stopped using it. Now we actually use the wall of the building is the Eruv. Okay. Anyway, so that was Rabbi's chashash. Yeah. Okay. So let's see weiter. So now the Gemara just discusses the ashba. It doesn't really discuss the water. We're afraid that the ashba is going to be taken, but now an ashba if you have an ashba in Rosh Hashanah that's high, that's 10 tvachim high, so if you have a window on top of it, you're allowed to throw your food right out of the window into the garbage dump. That's every yeshiva guy's dream, right? You have a garbage dump right out the window. Instead of having to clean up, you just open the window and throw it all out there. So what do you see? So you're allowed to, it's high, it's 10 tvachim high, so therefore it's considered a Rishus HaYachid, and you're throwing from Rishus HaYachid to Rishus HaYachid, right? Shani bein ashba d'Rama l'ashba d'Yachid. So we see that clearly you do differentiate between a public ashba and a private ashba. So hachanami, meaning by the case of throwing the food out to the dump. So hachanami shani bein rechava d'Rama and rechava d'Yachid. So too here, we're going to differentiate between a rechava d'Rama and rechava d'Yachid, meaning we see from there the case by the ashba that if it's privately owned, then we're afraid that they may remove the ashba. But if it's publicly owned, then we're not really afraid. So that's what we learned from that, right, bro? Well, they go straight to the ground.
You're walking on.
But that's a grummer. He's asking if we could do sponge. You know, when you walk in Yerushalayim and they're mopping the floors and it lands on your head. Yeah, maybe if you're higher than 10 tvachim, so then maybe. Okay, so for Rabbanon, what about the Rabbanon? What did they say about this? So Rebbe didn't want to pass in the Chumrah or the Kula. What about the Rabbanon? So Rav Yosef bar Avdimi, Tana of a Chachamim Eisrim, we learned that the Chachamim said Osir. So Rav Nachman, Halacha Ketevah Chachamim, the Halacha is like the Chachamim that you are not allowed to make a Mavui there. Ikad the Amri, Rav Yosef bar Avdimi, Tana of a Chachamim Matirin. We learned that the Chachamim Matir. Rav Nachman, Ein Halacha Ketevah Chachamim, the Halacha is not like the Chachamim. So it's interesting. So we have two versions of the Gemara of whether the Chachamim say mutar or asr, but the maskana of the Gemara is that it's asr. Because if you have the girsa that Chachamim said asr, so we're paskening, Rav Nachman's paskening like that, and the other gear says that the Chachamim said mutar, and Rav Nachman said Allah is not like the Chachamim, right? So
but Rebbe did pasken. The Gemara is assuming.
Well, right.
So why is the Gemara going against the Chachamim? If Rebbe didn't give up psak. He had a concern, but he didn't paskin.
No, they're not going against. They're not necessarily going against Rebbe.
Well,
they're just paskening.
What are they basing?
Doesn't work.
Who's they? According to the second tzad, only the Chacham really paskin on this, and they said it's mutter.
Right. So Rav Nachman is the one that was machma.
Oh.
Yeah, Rav Nachman decided to be machma. What his Messiah was with that, I don't know.
Right. I'm saying the Chachamim were. I'm assuming Tanaim.
What?
I'm assuming that the Chachamim of Rebbe's time were other Tanaim.
So you could paskin how he wants. He's the dayan.
Yeah, I guess I don't know. Yeah, but he probably.
What Messiah is that?
I don't know.
An Amir, not a Tana.
Well, what truth is he? I mean, Chachamim is plural, right? So Mustama to Rabbim. That's what I would think. That's what I would
think. They were Mater, and then also they were Tanaim. I'm saying we're talking about the Chachamim of Rebbe's time.
It depends which girsa you have. That's the problem.
I'm saying in the second girsa, how did Reb Nachman go ahead and say Ein Halacha Chachamim? That's
right. Oh, you mean Saturi? I don't know. I hear. Right. That's fine. That's a good order. Fine. So then Mareimar, he came up with a practical. See, so back to that picture. You don't have to put it back up. I think Darlin remembers it, but you saw that the dirt.
The people who build the Eruv in Brooklyn say Ein Halacha Kedra Moshe. It's the same thing.
Oh, very good.
Not the same thing.
Contemporary, yeah. Anyways, okay, so Mareimar had an Eitzah, right? So he was afraid for this thing that the dirt is going to run up like it did to our Eruv, right? The dirt ran up and was Mavatal, the seawall, right? So Mareimar, possibly L'Sura Ba'azli. In Surah, what Mareimar did is he put up these nets, like the equivalent of the top of that seawall from the picture, he put nets there. Why? I'm afraid that the dirt is the junk from the ocean is gonna come up and be mavatal the wall, right? So therefore he put up this netting that would be a backup eruv. Yeah. Fine. So Ahu Mavui, then we have the next thing. Ahu Mavui Akum to have a Basura. So there was a Mavui that was bent in Surah. Yeah, so what did they do? All right, so again, that's now we're back to our regular L-shaped Mavui. Let's go back to my blocks over here. Right? It's the regular Mavui, L-shaped, right? One end is a Rosh Hashanah going over here, Rosh Hashanah going over here, and it's an L shape. So we said before that it's a Machlokes whether that's considered open or not. If it's considered open, then you need to have something right here. And you need to have something at the end, and then you'd have to have something in the middle. If you hold that it's closed, then you only need one at the end and one at the end. You don't need something in the middle. So what did they do? So that was a surah. Karuch budya, and they wrapped up a mat, and then they put it there on the corner, right? They put it at the L where the L met. They put it there as a lechi. That's not like Rav, not like Shmuel. Again, remember, Rav and Shmuel had a machlokes whether we even require anything by that L, right? The Rav Damar Terasa Kimafulish. According to Rav, who says that it's looked at like it's totally open, he requires to have two lechis and a string. You can't just put up a mat rolled up. The Shmuel Damar Terasik is Sassam. According to Shmuel, who says that it's Sassam Hanimili Lechi Ma'aliyah. That only helps if there's an actual good lechi there, right? A good piece of wood. Aval Hai, even the Nashib Bazika, but this mat is going to blow in the wind. Vashadile. And it's gonna get thrown away. So like Lumu, it's meaningless, right? Meaning by putting, I guess they put a mat there. The pshat that they put a mat there, so it wouldn't look so bad. That's what I think it is, right? So he's saying, but it's very nice that you're putting it there that it should blend in. But Lamais, it's going to get blown down by the wind. If it's going to get blown down by the wind, what kind of lechi is that? It's no good. So that's what the Gemara says. Right? If you're going to stick it in a piece of nail, right, and it's going to bang this mat into the wall, then that's chavri. Then it's an attachment. Then that would work, and that would work according to Shmuel. Fine. Gufa. Amar Rav Yirmiyah ben Rav. Amar Rav. Mavi shenivet v'maloi l'chatzer v'nivrit zachatzer kenegdoi chatzer mutaris mavi aser. Right. So this is a quote from what we said before, that if you have a mavi that opens up fully into a chatzer, and then the chatzer has a hole in it, opposite it, then the chatzer is mutter, and the mavi is aser. Right? So Amarle Rabba Bar, right? We have the charts of that. Yeah. Again, so the Mavui opens up to a yard, right? Which we said is like the top of the T, and then there was an opening from that T to Rosh Hashanah. So he's saying it's mutter to carry there without putting anything. But the chatzer is mutter, the Mavui is also. Why? Because the opening was directly opposite. Right? Amarle Rabba Baravula Rabbi Barabaya Rav Loi Mishnasa Yizu. This is not a Mishnah, meaning why are you saying this on your own? It's really a Mishnah. Why? Because Chatzer Ketana. If you have a small yard that opens up into a big yard, Gedailu and right Gedailu Muteres, for Ketana Asuru, this large yard is going to be Mutter, and the small yard is going to be Asum. Because what it is, it's just like a doorway for the large yard. Yeah. I mean, it's essentially the same case. That's the Gemara's kasha. It's essentially the same case. Here, using my good old blocks over here, right? If you have a yard, well, this is what? Yeah, thank you. You have a small yard right here. This is a small yard, and right next to it is a big yard. Yeah, it's a small yard, big yard, right? This fence right here gets broken down. So now what happens here, now this is less than 10 amas. It's less than 10 amas. So essentially the small yard's entire side is missing. So you can't carry there. But if you look at it from the big yard, right? Look at it from the big yard. Look at so it has an opening less than 10 amas. Big deal. That's considered a doorway, right? That's what the Gemara says later on in the way near the end of the Masechta, right? So why isn't that the same exact thing as we're saying with the Mavui, right? So Amarle Imei Hasam. So he said back to him, right? If it's from over there, I would have thought that's only where the rabbin doesn't go there. But if the if people would walk back and forth, again, if people would be walking back and forth between this chatzer and that chatzer, so then I would also say that you can't carry in the large chatzer. That you can't, that it's not, that you could still carry there. So Gemara says, we also learned that chatzer sharabim nichnasin la bezu v'yatzin la bezu v'shasaram l'tumah v'shasayachid l'shabbos. If you have a chatzer that many people go into it, right? They go in one end, they go out the other end, right? So basically using it as a shortcut. They have a chotzer, you're using it as a shortcut. So what's the din? Is that considered Rishus Harabim or not? So it's for Tumah, it's considered Rishus Harabim. For Rishus Hayachid l'Shabbos. For Tumah, basically anytime there's a Tumah in Rishus Harabim, right? Suffix Tumah in Rishus Harabim is Tahar. Suffix Tumah in Rishus Hayachid is Tameh, right? And because that's, we learn out from Saita that it only if it's Vada is it going to be a problem with Rishus Harabim. But either way, we're saying that since people go in and out of there, so Mamela, it's considered a Rishus Harabim. It's a Rishus Harabim, but for Tumah, but for Shabbos, it's Rishus Hayachid. So you see that clearly people walking in and out is not going to change it. It's not going to change the status. If it's a chotzer and it's considered private property, regardless of how many people come in and out. So the Gemara answers, no, from there, that's where I would think with one opening is not opposite the other opening, right? Meaning it doesn't make a straight line straight out. But if the opening is directly across the Mavui or the chatzer, and therefore you'd be able to access straight from Rishus Harabim straight down into the Mavui without having to make any bends, I would think not. So therefore, that's what Rav is coming to teach us. Fine. Right? This, and according to Rabbah, who says Zeh Keneged Zeh is Osir, what is Rav going to be? What case is Rav going to be talking about? But Zeh Shaloi Keneged Zeh Tarti Lamali. Why do you need to have two cases? Zeh Shaloi Keneged Zeh. So the Gemara says, if it was only learned over there, you would think that it's just to throw things there. But to carry things, you would think maybe not, because it's the Raisa. Kamash Malon, that it's whether it's the Raisa or whether it's the Rabbanon. Lizroik, we're not starting to differentiate between throwing and carrying. It's the same thing. When you're not allowed to throw on Shabbos, you're not allowed to carry. But just Lizroik is a code word. Lizroik is a code word to say that it's a Rabbanon, right? Right, but and Lataltel is considered for the Raisa. I mean, when you're saying that it's something for Zrika, right? No, I'm sorry. No, I'm sorry. No, it's that we're calling it a Rishus Hayachid Daraisa. That's what we're saying. It's calling it, when it says Zrika, that means that it's considered whatever Rishus Hayachid we're talking about is Rishus Hayachid Daraisa. This one is, but if it's Lataltel, then it's not. Okay. Itmar. Now we get into a very interesting case. Itmar, I don't know. I don't think I have enough blocks to do this case. I mean, I don't have to look at that chart. So it's fine. Itmar, Mavui ha'asui kenadol. A Mavui that's made like the art scroll teaches it as a centipede, that's what's mashmil like from Rashi. Rashi, it's a sheretz, sheyeshi raglayim harbe. Right? It's a sheretz that has a lot of feet. Right? I mean, I see plenty of shrotzim around here that don't have centipede. Centipede, he calls it centipede?
Yeah, in Rashi.
Not here. Okay. So anyways, so you have, it's not, Rashi and Tosfos, does you see Tosfos has a chart. That's not the way the Mefarshim learn Pshat and Rashi. Right? So basically, it's the L-shaped. Someone want to say something? Basically, again, this would be the Mavui. The way they understand it in Rashi, which I can say personally, I don't understand this in Rashi, but that's the way the Mefarshim say Rashi means it. This is again the Mavui. This is one Mavui here, and then an L-shaped Mavui, and then in here are this chatzeris, one over here, and then another one over here, another one over here. So basically, you have a lot of streets filling into the main Mavui, right? To the main Mavuis, which is an L shape, right? To it, you make a tzuras of Pesach to the big one, meaning on one end, right? V'hanach kulu mishtru b'lechi v'koira, and the rest you can do with either a lechi or a koira. Doesn't again, you don't need both. You can either do with a lechi or a koira, right? So Amar le Rava Kiman, who's that like? Shmuel. That must be like Shmuel. The Amar terazik kasasim, because Shmuel says that it's like it's considered enclosed. Lama le tzuras a Pesach, right? If you're saying it's like Shmuel, that it's, I'm sorry, I didn't read that properly. Amalei Rava Kiman Kishmuel, you're saying like Shmuel Dama Terasik Asasim, that it's as if it's closed, meaning again, we said Shmuel says that an L shaped is still considered like it's closed. So then Lamalei Tzuras Pesach, if you consider it closed, you only need a Tzuras Pesach when the Mavui is open at both ends. It's only open at one, and you don't need a Tzuras Pesach. But who Mavui Akum to have a Ben Ardah the Rav, we said yesterday in the Hardah, which is Shmuel's town. Shmuel was the Rav of Nardah, right? We said we're chashiv for Rav, right? So who exactly is this going like? Elama Rava, I said Tzuras Pesach lekulu lahai gisa. You make a Tzuras Pesach for all of them on one side. The idach gisa mishlu b'lechi v'koira, and the other side you do with a lechi and a koira, right? Yeah. So there's interesting Tosfos. The Tosfos says that when it was in the town that was in, well, we're not getting into the whole thing, but the Shmuel in the town of Shmuel, they were chashish for Rav's shita, yeah, which is a little interesting why they decided to be chashish for that. Okay, so Amar Rav Kahana bar Tachlifa Mishmei Rav Kahana. This is a lot of names here. We get a little vacation here from Eruvin. Amar Rav Kahana bar Tachlifa Mishmei Rav Kahana bar Minyumin Mishmei Rav Kahana bar Malchia Mishmei Rav Kahana Rabbe de Rav. Ba'amri lo Rav Kahana bar Malchia Hainu Rav Kahana Rabbe de Rav. Right? Okay, it's a lot of Rav Kahanas here, which comes up in a minute. Mavui shetzidei echad aruch v'tzidei echad chatzer. So you have a mavui that one end is longer than the other end, right? Here, like this. Well, do it this way, right? One end is longer than the other end. So now what we're saying you got to do is you got to put a kaira, right? You want to put a beam. You want to put a beam across it. The problem is that beam is going to be on an angle, right? So the question is, should you just put the beam right here, right? Or should you put it on an angle? Yeah? So again, Mavui shetzidei echad aruch v'tzidei echad chatzer. One end is longer than the other. So pachas mi-arba amas, if the two ends are less than 4 amas, miniach as a kaira ba'alachsen, put it on an angle. Arba amas, but if it's 4 amas, ena miniach as a kaira ela keneged a chatzer. Again, if the space between the end of here and the end of here is more than 4 amas, then you can't put the lechi like that. You would have to put it just straight across, meaning you're going to lose out. And the reason for the 4 amas is because, like we discussed before, it's a machlokes what the minimum shear of a mavui is. 4 amas or 4 tfachim. So clearly this Gemara is going with that the minimum shear of a mavui is 4 amas. Yeah.
What about and where can you carry? You'd have to carry it on an angle?
You cannot. Right. No, very good. Good point. No, you can carry it only up to the angle. Or
can you carry in the angle?
You would be able to carry in the angle up until the beam, but that's going to be the next Gemara, whether you're allowed to carry under the beam or not. Right? But if it's more than 4 amas, you're going to have to go with the shorter end of the mavui, which is going to really cut off part of your mavui.
Wouldn't this be a harder case for mitzad hecker? Right? The whole Gemara said before hecker.
Right, good, very good. That's very good. The Gemara is going to discuss in a minute. So Rav Amar echad zeh v'echad zeh eina miniach as a kaira ela keneged a chatzer. Whether it's more than 4 amas, whether it's less than 4 amas, you always have to put the kaira keneged the shorter end, right? I'm going to say my reason, and then I'm going to say their reason. I'm going to say my reason. Kaira time amai mishum hecker. Why do we have a kaira? We had this a few blocks ago. How does a kaira function as? What is the kaira there for? It's there to remind you, hecker. It's to remind you not to step out from the mavui into the Rosh Hashanah, right? Because the mavui is considered a Rosh Hashanah, right? You just need the beam there to remind you not to carry out to the public property. For whatever reason, if it's on an angle, people are not going to notice it as much. I can't say I understand that, but that's what he's saying, right? The aim of time it did too, and the reason why, and therefore Rava says you have to always make it the kaira flat. It can never go on an angle. And I'll say that their reason, right? We said that the reason that a beam function as a mechitza, you could have a mechitza as a lachsan. Again, the way it functions as a mechitza, and this will come up in a few minutes, is that we look at the edges here. This would be the kaira covering. This is the kaira across the entrance of the mavui. So we look at the edge of the kaira. That's like your beginning of a mechitza, and we look at it like it goes straight down. It's like a virtual, invisible mechitza that it goes straight down. So why can't, if you have it like this, why can't it go straight down? Why, just because it's on an angle doesn't mean it can't go straight down. So that's the pshat in the Machlokes. So Rav Kahana hoil v'shmaitza the kahanihi. So Rav Kahana said, since this shmaitza quoted many people named Kahana, right? We had 4 lines of Kahanas. Since we quoted that, aim of a milsa, I'm also going to say something, right? This reminds me of the first, when I went to Mir Yerushalayim. So Rabbi Arieli, who I don't know how many people he has in this year now, 800-900 people in this year. So when I first started, he gave share in the dorm room, which was something to see. I mean, you couldn't get in there. I mean, the people stood on the backs of the beds, and then people sat on the fronts of the beds and on top of the closets and in the closets.
The third floor.
The third floor, and he sat there on a chair and he said shir. Then, like 2 months after I was in yeshiva, they opened up the miklat in the basement, and they gave him 200 seats. So it was like a whole thing how to get everybody into the shir room. So basically, there was a guy Stein, one of the Steins from Cleveland, from Tells, who had a seat, but he had left the shir. But Rav Asher didn't know that, so I went over to Rav Asher and I said, "This guy Stein used to be in the shir, and he left, but my name is Stein, so I should get the seat." So Rav Asher looks at me like I fell off the moon. He said, "I don't understand. You're Stein. You're. What's the common thing? That you have the same last name, so you should get the seat?" I said, "Yeah, Lamax, I got the seat. Yeah, that chutzpah gets it." But this Gemara reminded me of this. His name is Rav Kahana, therefore he's going to say something about all the Kahanas. Yeah.
That was Klap Shmai Mahania.
yeah. But anyways, some of
Yaakov, I think it works with the title also. When people say they have the title rabbi, they feel they can say things.
Okay, so you say, okay, fine. All right.
Somebody's bitter.
Yeah, so Amr of Kahana. What do you say?
Parrots behave.
Yeah, we haven't heard you say that in a couple of days. Okay, so Amr of Kahana. Since this is the Shmaitz of Kahanim, Milsa, I'm going to say something. This that we said you're allowed to put the kaira on an angle. That's only if when you put it on the angle, it's not going to be more than 10. But if the halachsan is more than 10, then everybody says you don't have to put it negative kotzer. Meaning, we said that the mavui, the maximum entrance for a mavui is 10 amas, right? So if you would go across, using this block again, if you'd go across, this would be 10 amas. But when you put it on an angle, so obviously an angle is going to take up a lot more room. If that angle is going to make this beam have to be longer than 10 amas, then he's saying that then for sure it doesn't work. Right? That was Rav Kahana's chiddush. Okay, so then we get into to another interesting question. Nibailu, right? This is the new Gemara. Are you allowed to go under the kaira? Meaning you have this mavui, so everybody's hanging out in the mavui, right? How far can you go to the Rosh Hashanah? You got the mavui by the entrance. Can you stand under the mavui, or can you only go up until the mavui? Not the mavui, I'm sorry, to the kaira. Can you stand under the beam, or can you?
Didn't we have this?
Didn't we
have it something included or not included a few days ago?
Yes. We asked it parenthetically before, but very good. Yeah. What are you saying, Rabbi?
If the Rosh Hashiva is saying share in the Mavui, you want to be able to be in the Mavui, like you in the miklat.
Right. You got to squeeze yourself in there. Right. Very good. So then, can you go under the beam or not? So, right. So let's say the beam has got a thickness of it needs to be at least a minimum of a tefach. We said. Well, that's the question whether it's the width or the length. But either way, can you stand under there or not? So can you go under the kaira? Rav Rav Chia, Rabbi Yochanan, Amru Mutter. Rav Chia, and Rabbi Yochanan say it's mutter l'shtamash tachas kaira. You're allowed to use under the kaira. Shmuel, Rabbi Shimon bar Rebbe, Rabbi Shimon ben Lakish Amru. Also, this is a heavy machlokes here. This is this major shittas on both sides here. That no pun intended of both sides. Okay, Rav Shimon Lakish, right? Amru also l'shtamish tachas a kair. It's usher to go under the kair. So let's say this is the machlokes. The marsa of a kair b'shum heker. One holds that kair is because of a heker. So therefore, what's the heker? The heker is the front of the beam. When you look up, you want to be able to see the heker. So that would be the front, right? Umar and Mar says that the kaira is because of mechitza. So if it's a mechitza, so now we're going to see in a minute that which side of it is the mechitza, right? But let's see. So like the kuliyama kaira mishum heker. Everybody holds the kaira is because of heker. Here's what the machlokes is. The Mar savar heker milagav. The heker goes for the inside, for the people that are inside. So therefore, you can only carry up until the edge of the beam. Right? I lost the place. The other one holds that the heckers for the outside people, the people on the outside. So therefore, if the heckers for the people on the outside, then the people that are inside can carry up until under the beam, up until the Rishus Haram. I don't get.
Why
exactly
would it be for the people on the outside?
Exactly.
You're the one carrying.
Right. So they're basically, it's for people from the outside to see that the people on the inside are carrying and the people outside are not carrying. So then they're going to learn from that you're allowed to carry in a Mavui and not outside. That's what it seems to be. I can't say I clearly understand what that is. Right. But again, according to this, the Machlokes is saying everybody holds it's because of hecker. It's just a Machlokes of who needs the hecker, the people on the inside or people on the outside. Not who needs it. They both need it, but who's it more for? Everybody is saying, well, the kuliyam shum mechitza. No, everybody holds it from mechitza. This is the machlokes. The marsav chudoi hapnimi yared b'saisum. Now, this is an important rule to know for later on in Eruvin. It's called pi tikra yared b'saisum. The edge of a piece of a beam goes down and encloses. Right. So basically, if this was the beam holding up again a piece of wood, which I guess would be a beam. Right. So now you have two edges. You have this edge and you have the other edge. Well, this edge. Right. So now, which one is going down and making the mechitza? The inner part or the outer part? Both of them could theoretically make a mechitza. So marsav chudoi hapnimi, the inner one yair v'saisum. So if that's the inner one is going down and sealing, the yair v'saisum means we look at it like it goes straight down and it seals the mavui. So therefore, you can only carry up to there. Marsav chudoi achitza yair v'saisum. It's the outer one. So therefore, you are allowed to carry under the beam. So Amar Rav Chisda, kol madvim bein l'chayayim she'asur. And everybody agrees that if it's between the lechi, now Rashi says it doesn't mean the lechis, it just means one lechi, meaning if you have on the edge of the mavui, right, we've been discussing that it always has a kaira on top. Right, here we're talking about where you just had a lechi along the opening, right, this way. He's saying everybody agrees that you can only carry up until the lechi, you cannot carry past that. Why not? Because the Rashi says a lechi, there's no minimum measurement for a lechi. Right, a lechi could be the tiniest thing. So therefore, since it's the tiniest amount, if we can't allow somebody to carry there because he may, if you have a tiny thin lechi that's a fraction of an inch thick, then you may end up carrying there. In our Eruv, we have actually used paint as a lechi. Sometimes when they didn't. Now Baruch Hashem, we have a lot more Yiddim. And in the old days of the Eruv, 20 years ago, when they really were not very happy with the Eruv, sometimes you can take paint. Now, paint does have a little bit of thickness. Some paint has thickness to it. They would paint it. We paint it on the tree or on a wall, and that would actually be the lechi, and it would be very unassuming. I'd have used tape also when I've been stuck here in the country and I couldn't get a lechi, so I would take thick, electric tape, and then tape it along the wall, and that would be a lechi. So since a lechi has no minimum measurement, how can you tell somebody carry up against? You can carry by the thickness of the lechi. You might end up carrying it to Rishus Haram. Fine. Two more lines. Not say this b'shnei kaisle mavui mibachutz v'niach kaira gabein mahu. Right. If you take two nails, you say there's two nails b'shnei kaisle mavui mibachutz on the outside. V'niach kaira gabein, and you put a beam on top of them. What's the din? It's a very interesting case. Again, you have here would be. Here, hold on. Let me put that down like that. You have, who can't see it? You'd have Right, here's the two walls. Hey, give me a hand over here. You have two walls. You have the two walls. These are two walls of the lechi. Oh, no, hold it. Give me the yellow.
Here, a cigar would work perfect, actually.
Right, a cigar.
Right,
Okay,
you
we got to do a cigar.
This is the
No, so here you have two. These are the two ends of the. This is the opening of the Mavui. Now, instead of putting the beam right on top, so what you did is you put it on the outside of it, right? On the outside, like right here. Now, what's the din? Does that work or not? Right? So what's the din? So Amrle Ledivri Amatir, also Ledivri Oiser Mutter. So now what happens is that the shittas swap. Right? The one that says that you're allowed to carry under the beam, here is going to say Oser. Why? Because where's the beam? If you're allowed to carry under the beam, where is the beam? The beam is outside the Mavui. Right? If you're allowed to carry up to the beam, here the beam is outside the Mavui. So then your Mavui doesn't have a kaira inside. It's too far. It's outside. And the Divriya Aiser Mutter. And according to the one that says Aser, that doesn't allow you to carry under the beam, so he's going to say that it's going to be Mutter because it's up right against the Mavui. Rav Amar the Divriya Aiser Nami Aser. Right? He says for a different reason. He says even the one that says Aser over there to carry under, here he's also going to say also because being in kaira al gabi Mavui the lekha. You need the kaira to be on top, directly on top, like we saw before, not on the side, right? Which is a very common example of a tzuras of Pesach. You know, people put up a 2x4 and then they take a wire and they wrap it around the top of the 2x4, around here. They don't put it over the top. That's one of the more common mistakes that people. I've had quite a few people that have sent me pictures of Eruvin, and you'd see that the string is wrapped around the end of it like this because it's much easier to do. You just wrap it around and finish. That's not the way it goes. The top always has to go over. This is not exactly what we're talking about here, but it'll come up. It has to go over the top of the beams. And here, in this case, you didn't have that because the guy put it on the side, not on the top. Okay, fine.
What about, according to the Divya Mater Iser, that part of the Gemara, why don't we say loved? Meaning, why don't we say it go even according to him? We could push it inwards. It'll be connected to the wall.
Yeah, but it's still going to be outside the wall. Even if you're going to say love it, it's going to be outside the wall, no?
We don't connect it to the wall and go down? Meaning create the machitza, but...
No, this thing is up against the wall. It is up against the wall.
But we're saying because Chuda Ritzaini, it goes all the way out and it's not really connected to any wall then. It's not connected to the Mavui itself. Isn't that the issue? Meaning because he owes
right, so therefore, right, but it's
so
not,
why don't we say that it's love it and it's really not it's really like similar as Chuda Pnimi in a way.
So according to never say Chuda Pnimi Yerushalayim.
Here's my lawyer. I'm giving you to my lawyer. Go ahead.
What does that mean?
Love it is only if there's a gap and you need to fill in that
there
gap.
is a gap. That's the issue. Chuda Chitzon, because there's a gap between that and the actual Mavui. Where you need
what's the Gemara Shiloh? If
you get that extra space, for him it works all the time. It works both ways. Yeah, that's kind of the point. Lover would help him in both scenarios.
Only according to Hector for Isser.
For Hector, it goes all the way out.
Saying love it for Hector.
Why would you say it for Isser? We're trying to make it that it goes all the way in. Why would it be for Isser?
First of all, why would you say love it if you have an actual board here?
Because we're saying Chuda Chitzon doesn't connect it to the wall. That was the issue. So say love it and it's connected to the Mavui.
But love it is only if there's nothing there, as far as I understand.
Isn't that the problem here? We're saying that there's nothing there because Chuda Chitzon, that it's not really connected to anything. So
right, but
it is connected.
Why could you say love it if there's something blocking it?
It's a big shiloh. If you can say love it with something blocking, it's a big shiloh. I don't know how we come out.
I see Arthur quotes Rashi explaining why it can't be loved.
Does it?
It seems like because there's no wall there, you can't say loved just to the protruding pegs, right? Even though it is within 3 tefachim.
I understand why is loved. I'm not understanding why loved would even help you.
I was gonna say maybe I'm not understanding how this works, but what would the issue be l'divrei hamater Isa? Why would he aser in this case?
If you hold, you're allowed to carry under it, right? Then the kaira
Right.
is outside. It's outside the mavui.
Right. So I'm saying if it's within 3 tvachim, you should be able to say the kaira is in the mavoi because because the lumdus of Beloved says we look at it as if it's connected to the mavoi.
I guess the bottom line of Rashi.
What's he saying from Rashi?
The bottom line of Rashi.
Hold on. The article does bring it up. 1 second. He quotes Rashi.
Well, Rashi says it's not mechuber to the kaisel. And he says the lumdus of mechita doesn't really apply here. That's why we can't say it's connected to the mother.
He's saying it's not a mechitza mamish. He's not saying it's not a mechitza mamish.
Meaning, if you had a full-fledged mechitza going down, then we would say that mechitza is attached to the mother, and then you could carry in it. But since it doesn't actually exist, you can't say lovin.
I hear.
Yeah.
Interesting.
It is, yeah. Okay, tonight wasn't so as complicated
But you know,
as last night.
we're pretty
But
much done
tomorrow's
with a third of
third.
A third of the concepts. We're done.
Why?
It's basically a third of them is actually this concept over and over.
Yeah, yeah. All right.
All right,
Fine. All right. I'm sorry I started a little late tonight. Hopefully, parents, I'm sorry for shafting you on that one. I got stuck behind a school bus on the way home. That set everything back. Yeah.
Yeah, don't worry. I got it from everybody as well.
What?
I got it from everybody as well.
Yeah.
I hear you. Listen,
All
we
right.
had a whole crew by me doing the Daf.
What?
Had a whole crew by me doing